Hey everybody, welcome back to Conquer the Cave, and this is a special one because this is the first one we've done since the Galactic Championships that we've both been on. It was me and Ian Klein, the runner-up at the Galactic Championships, was kind enough to come on the show and talk about their amazing Tarkentown, deck, or Tarkentown's on the brain. Their Kylo Ren Tarkentown deck, but I'm glad to have my Galactic Championship co-caster back with me again. Podcast co-host with me back again, Charmer. But you were at Gen Con last weekend. I feel like me, and I know Xander from Fantasy Flight didn't go, but like when we were at Galactics, everybody else in the universe was talking about going to Gen Con. So I felt very left out that I didn't get to go. So let me live vicariously through you. How did it go? Because those tournaments turned out really interesting.
So first, let me say, this is how you know you and I haven't done one of these in a while. I don't know if you realized it, but when you started, you said, welcome to Conquer the Cave.
Did I? I'm so used to like... Radio. You know what? Speaking of that, I forgot I didn't even put the logo. There's our Ice Cave logo on the screen. Man,
listen, we're professionals, but...
It is. I'm still recovering. I'm also solo parenting my toddler this weekend, too. So my brain is really operating at like 5% capacity right now.
Last night was the first like full night of sleep I've gotten since before the Galactic Championship. So I feel you. All right. So living vicariously. You are correct. Xander did not go to Gen Con, and everyone else that felt like did. Obviously, you weren't out there either, but
it's true. It's true.
I saw, Jim and Alicia and Tyler and Ryan and so many of the folks that were at the Galactic Championship from FFG also at Gen Con. In fact, Xander's brother, Cody, was there. He taught me and Stark how to play Marvel Champions. So we got to say hi to him. He was also working at the Galactic Championship in like the merch area. Mm-hmm. And Gen Con was fun. I tried a number of new games that I actually was pretty excited about. So I know Marvel Champions, for example, that's been out for like 5 years or whatever, but every time in years prior that we wanted to demo it or whatever, we never had an opportunity. So Stark and I made an effort this year, and it was actually a lot of fun. I think I'm going to pick some of it up to play with my kids. My youngest son in particular has been wanting to learn to play card games because he saw us casting the Galactic Championship, and he's like, I want to do what Dad does now. He's hitting that age. So nice. That's really cool. And I tried a number of board games. All that stuff is fun, but for the most part, it was a weekend of card games, right? Obviously, I played Star Wars Unlimited, and I will cover that in a bit. But I did also play some Flesh and Blood with my son Stark as well. We did the Crack Shuffle play with the newest set of that. I got to demo some Riftbound and talk to some of that team as well. So it was a long weekend of card games, which is exactly what I love. Star Wars Unlimited, I brought my Twin Suns deck, but never got a chance to play it, unfortunately. I did, however, get to play Premier, and I also got to do a draft. So Stark and I did a Legends of the Force draft that was a lot of fun. My draft did not go super well, though, because the person to the left of me trapped me, okay? When the leaders opened up, right, I had a pack and I chose Obi-Wan as my first leader, right? Mm-hmm. They passed me a Morgan, Elspeth, and something else that was really bad, so I just took the Morgan because I wanted access to villainy. And then on the third one, they gave me another Obi-Wan. So basically, I was locked into Obi-Wan. Now, this is relevant because the person to my left was also on Obi-Wan and took everything from me. So it was like half of a deck because that person and I were kind of fighting for the same cards. So I did not go undefeated in that draft, but I still had a lot of fun. And Stark ran into somebody from the community that was handing out like 3D printed things to hold your tokens. Oh, neat. And they just gave Stark one, which was really kind. I ran into some listeners of the show. I had a few people say like, hey, like, I recognize your voice. Are you Charmer? They, said hello. I didn't play against him, but Mikolai, that we were casting several times at the Galactic Championship, was to the right of me in one round where I was playing an Iden Mirror, and they won next to me. They were on the Talzine list that they played at the Galactic Championship. And then the following round, when I was at table 2, he was at table 1. So I got to see some familiar faces there. I was telling you, I played against a fantastic Lando aggression deck.
That list
So
has been making
Lando comes at
waves.
2.
Yeah.
Just really fast. I love cunning aggression anyway. You and I have said several times we love the Sabine cunning list. And this Lando list had a lot of the similarities to that, but also really made use of some of the low to the ground aggressive smuggle units, specifically on the flit turn. One of the games, I think they went all the way down to 1 resource because, again, if you're not familiar with Lando, you can reduce the smuggle costs of things, but you don't replace when you do the smuggle the resource that goes. So you kind of go down a resource in trade off for tempo.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fine when if you've got 2 units on the board, because it was playing a lot of 1 drop. So even if you're killing a unit, it's going to have 2 to 3 units on the board. It's going to flip the leader. And then it's like smuggled hot shot blaster for 1. Turns out that's really effective. Reckless gunslinger for 1. So you have all these things where you're extending your hand by the things that you put down early while also still getting the value. It was pretty explosive. I will definitely put some reps on that in the near future because I just really liked what it was doing. So that was a lot of fun. And I just saw a lot of folks that were enjoying the game, right? I felt like even though there were people being competitive, it was almost like there was this sigh of relief in a post-Galactic Championship world where everybody, still had their decks either from that event or maybe they were trying to learn a deck from that event, because I did also, I played against a Kylo Tarkin town list, for example. It was just nice. And the events were pretty packed for Star Wars. I know that there were some complaints because I think this year there was not a prize wall where last year there was one, but it was, if I'm being honest, probably just because they didn't have a way to transport a lot. So for the folks who don't know, much like Doa was saying, everybody that was at the Galactic Championship was talking about going straight to Gen Con. Almost everyone I talked to, I was like, hey, did you even go home? And they were like, no, I literally went straight from Vegas to here. Now, logistics wise, if you've got a bunch of stuff for your prize wall at one location, shipping that kind of stuff is not easy.
It's very expensive.
It's not like you're going to throw an entire prize wall worth of stuff into your carry-on, if you know what I mean. So it makes sense to me that if they had to prioritize one over the other, they made sure that their prize wall for their marquee event was solid, and then they just did what they could at Gen Con. Now, they did still have like a booth where you could buy things. I heard some conflicting reports when I was like messing around on social media. Some people said that they had sold out of stuff, but I still saw boosters for sale from Legends of the Force on Sunday. They did sell out of Carbonite packs by the end of the weekend, but every time I checked, I had the opportunity if I had wanted to buy product. So,
okay.
All things considered, I think it went pretty well. It was a good Gen Con.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like fun. I mean, it's definitely an event I would love to be at because I just love games. I just love learning new game systems, board games, card games, video games, you name it. Speaking of that, one last non-Star Wars game to mention. Did you play the new Godzilla card game?
No.
It's interesting. I would never pick it up as like a main game or anything like that, but it's a fun like board game style TCG where like I picked up the starters and I just want to have those around as just sort of like a separate board game to play, kind of, because you're moving your Godzilla around the mat and like you can stomp on other cards and take them out. It's a very board gamey feeling card game, but that was one I'm like, okay, this is like a fun thing to just kind of have on the shelf.
So I'll tell you what I did see. My son and I did demo Universes again, in part just because we missed Josh Massey.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
If you're not familiar, Josh Massey, who used to be head of organized play for FFG, is now working for Universes. He was there. He was helping do a bunch of the demos. So Stark and I obliged, tried out the game. It was a lot of fun. There is a like Godzilla expansion for Universes.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. There's a Bushiroad made like an actual Godzilla game. But the whole game is very much like a love letter to the old movies more than anything. It's very collector aimed,
So what I was going to say is we did see that. There was also a game that I didn't think was a card game, but there was another game that was there where there was a big play mat, and then it was like a miniatures game, but there was like a massive figure for Godzilla and Ghidorah, and then there were like tanks and planes or whatever on the map, and it looked like it was 4 players.
Wow.
And you were trying to like either take down one of, like, everybody had different win conditions, and then in the case there, they had big miniatures. They had the Godzilla, the Ghidorah, and then I guess 2 other options are Mothra and Mechagodzilla.
Okay.
But that looked really fun. We didn't have a chance to demo it because while we were waiting in line for that, I had a scheduled event that we then had to run to, so we never made it through the line. But I did not try the Bushy Road stuff. We did go past the booth.
Okay.
For Bushy Road.
It's not like the greatest card game I've ever played, for sure. But it's like I said, I feel like it's a good like board game to have on the shelf, right? Where you just get the starters and you're like, all right, well, let's bust out Godzilla for the evening or something, you know? And if you really love the movies, then the booster pack's worth opening because they do a really good treatment with the cards to kind of show off. Like if it's a monster, if it's a kaiju from a black and white film, then the whole card is basically just black and white, except for some of the
cool.
some of the text, you know, the keywords and things like that. So yeah, it seems to be made more for like Godzilla fans, specifically like old movie Godzilla fans versus like card game players. You know, it doesn't strike me as a great competitive card game, but it just, I enjoyed playing the demo when I did it at Anime Expo, and I've enjoyed kind of having it just sort of around to just break out once in a while. So there you go. Was wondering if you played that. You should give it a shot.
No, did not.
It's nowhere near as good as Star Wars Unlimited. That's for sure.
Wow.
That's obvious because this whole podcast is not about the Bushi Road Godzilla game. It's about Star Wars Unlimited from Fantasy Flight Games. So let's talk about that a little bit. Galactic Championships. But you know, before we get into it though, let's do a real quick cave poll. We're going to be spending a lot of time on the 2 box, I think, this time around. But I asked, which of the top 8 Galactic Championships decks are you hyped to try out? Because I thought, well, you know, if a lot of people are out there watching this being like, am I going to find a new deck I want to try out? And then I could have gone, you know, top 16 or something like that, but there was a lot of overlap. So I'm like, well, I'll just go top 8. And so there's 6 choices there. And I'm not surprised at all by the result. I thought there'd be a little bit more Kylo Ren Tarkentown, but I can't blame the people that voted for it the most. That Han Solo Never Tell Me the Odds Tarkentown list does look really, really fun. And I'm wondering if I'm going to see some of those at my PQ in a couple weeks, you know?
I expect 1 or 2.
I got to try.
That would be fine.
Yeah. It's because when you look at that list, and when we were looking at that list during the Galactic Championship, what struck me is how similar it was in function, if not form, to the Vader JTL Cunning list, where Vader goes very wide. Obviously, you're not making tokens with the Han Solo deck, but you're playing things and then playing other cards to give little bits of incremental damage to weak units, right? Which in the Vader 4 list comes from Victor Leader a lot of times, or just having your First Order TIE Fighter be buffed by there being a token on the board. Whereas the Han Solo one, it's on the leader card for the most part. But then you've got other little things you can do too. So I think it's a really unique take on space aggro. And I didn't expect it to work as well as it does. But man, I mean, great pilot too. That player, Matthew, I believe his name is, has a great attitude when we had him interviewed on stage. So I think it's cool to see that one be number 1.
You know, I will say one of the things that I thought about, so I agree with you. It does feel like in spirit or in playstyle, it does seem very similar to the Vader jump to light speed kind of cunning list that we've seen floating around.
Having played a ton of Vader for myself, that's where that feeling comes from. Yeah.
No, and I can see the similarities in play pattern, but one of the things that I think gives it a slight edge is that while Vader is focused on making sure that you're making the tokens as a way to extend your value, because the Han list is just setting up for like this one explosion of cards played from hand, essentially, right? Because you're going to ready a bunch of resources. The units themselves are not token sized, right? They're not 1/1s. And I noticed that when we were covering the Galactic Championship, one of the very common sideboard options outside of Bombing Run was Jedi Starfighter. There was a lot of lists that had that because It's essentially a unit that lets you take out 2 TIE Fighter tokens when it attacks. You ping one and then you attack one directly.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't have nearly the same efficacy against the Han Solo list because, yes, it's small units, but they all have, 2 or more health, right? So the 2-for-1 now goes down to maybe a 1-for-1 or whatever, or it might be a 2-for-1, but it has to take multiple turns. So I do wonder if that's also why that list was as effective as it was, because it was kind of subverting the way people were trying to attack the Vader list.
Yeah, I agree completely in that it has that survivability that the Vader 4 list kind of lacks sometimes, and really feels that. The other thing that this list has that's really good is Millennium Falcon piece of junk. And this is the exact reason that I put it in my Vader list, because so many people will try to just clear all the ships on the flip turn. But if you have Millennium Falcon piece of junk in your deck, you just play it. It's ready. You put your pilot on it, and they've spent all their resources and actions trying to clear your board, and you're fine with that.
Yeah.
You still get to have a big attack. You still get to do something. So I think that's a big part of what gives this deck some gas too. But I haven't played it yet. I haven't played the list yet. It's on my list of things to test before the PQ. I've been testing Mother Talzin, because I really just enjoy that list, and I've been testing Luke Ford Data Vault, but I got to get around to this one too. But either way, there's our cave poll here. Galactic Championship. Where do you want to start? I feel like, just in a general sort of sense, for us as commentators, the event was great. I mean, we were well taken care of. Rooms, flights, all that kind of stuff. All the things you'd expect if you were working an event. This is a message to anyone out there who, wants to do commentary professionally or, semi-professionally. They should be paying for your room and board if they want you to come do their event. They should be. So, little aside there, make sure that's in the contract. But of course it was for us. Everything was great, and it ran so smoothly. That's what kind of shocked me, is that a lot of times, because I've done a lot of these first time things. I did the first Flesh and Blood Worlds, and I did one of the first big Bandai card game events, and some of the other esports events I've done over the years. And a lot of times, the first time it will be rough, right? Which of course it would be. Naturally, there's a lot of logistical things that haven't been experienced before by the crews and by the companies and all that. So there's going to be some growing pains, but this just didn't have any of that. This went so smoothly, where the producer was great in my ear the whole weekend. You're talking, you're hosting, and the producer's saying, hey, we're going to this slide next. We're going to commercial in a few, and so the interaction between me and him all weekend was really great. His name was Stuart. He was awesome. The whole crew, we barely had any technical glitches at all on the broadcast. I think the whole weekend, there was one or two little ones. Went from game to game very quickly. Just in general, I feel like that was just one of the smoothest events I've ever been a part of. What do you think?
I would agree. When you were saying where do you want to start? For me, I think there's 3 buckets of info that I want to hit when we talk about this. So I want to talk about the broadcast. I want to talk about the tournament itself, and then I want to talk about, for lack of a better term, the experience of the event, because there was a lot of additional things at this that I was not expecting. So when I'm talking about the broadcast part, broadcast went great. I often say that you're not on a broadcast if something doesn't go wrong, whether it's esports, whether it's physical card games,
of course,
whether it's sports broadcasting. It just feels like something always goes wrong. And look, no broadcast is perfect, but this was almost as close as I can imagine a broadcast going.
Certainly one of the closest I've ever been a part of.
Yeah. The transitions were smooth. The technical side held up. Anytime that we had any sort of feedback, if it was within their power, the production team went out of their way to try to help us, whether that was bringing us iPads so that we could do card lookup or deck list lookup in between rounds, or even when we gave feedback, and I know some people had posted about this as well, but when we saw the overlay and we were like, hey, the gameplay area looks a little small, and you and I had the same concern, which is like on mobile, right? If somebody's watching YouTube on their phone or whatever, we thought the play area might be small. Unfortunately, it wasn't something they could fix this time, but they were like, look, we're taking notes. We'll work on getting that addressed for the next time. So that was nice. We had, I think early on day one, a couple of times where because of the dark sleeves, the resource count for players was hard to see.
Yeah.
And so they were
really
trying to,
sometimes.
they were like, hey, we have people tracking that. So we're going to see if we can get that info to you. They just, if something could be better, they were not just like open to it. They went out of their way to try to make it work. So, yeah, everything was smooth. I loved the forethought and the foreplanning because the downtime was incredibly mitigated. I've done a number of these events where, you know, you hit the lunch break, or if your round finishes like extra early, there's just dead air, right? And that can sometimes be a killer for killer for a broadcast when it says like we'll be back and it's like a 20-minute timer. I don't think I saw a timer all weekend that was more than 5 minutes because they had interviews ready to go and pre-recorded content, and they just were on top of it. So from a broadcast standpoint, it was great.
Yeah. I think we had about I think that I saw or heard the peak for the stream was around 5,000 people, which obviously is more because you've got multiple people in front of a screen. Sometimes you've got people watching the venue and all that. So the people functionally watching is more, but that's already getting up there for a card game broadcast. I mean, that's small in the scope of broadcasting, obviously, but for a card game broadcast, especially for like a first time one, essentially, for this, that was pretty good. That's a solid number. You know, I think that's something to be proud of. So I thought the entire event was just such a good groundwork that was laid. You know, it was such a good bedrock put down for the next events, right? And so I'm really, really hoping that we can take what was done at the Galactic Championships and meet that bar every time and just keep building on that. And I'll say right here, I would love to see something closer to that for certainly regionals, if not sectors as well. I do think those 2-level events deserve a higher level of production than we've seen so far. And so I would like to see, you know, Fantasy Flight either invest more into third-party companies doing that, or invest more into that themselves, you know, to bring a higher level. Because I think that also elevates the Galactic Championships too. If you have a series of events running up to it that have a good level of production that get people invested in watching it, you know. So I for season 1. I want to see a little bit more of that too for sectors and regionals. We don't need to go all the way to like what we saw at Galactics, but I think we need to go farther than what we did in season 0, as far as the production for those goes. Because a lot of those, I mean, I know, and this by no means is you know, throwing shade on the people that did broadcast for those, because I know the vast majority of it was volunteer work, right? But it shouldn't have to be. Those are big enough events that production should be paid. There should be investment going into those because those are, you know, forgive the pun, premier events for your game, right? Sectors and regionals should get more, you know, investment and attention, production wise than they did, in season 0. So hopefully we'll see a bit of that in season 1. Cause I just want to see that elevated as well. I think it certainly can be. So.
Yeah. And given what we saw from the Galactic report, right? Obviously, you and I did not get any additional details regarding changes to organized play for season 1 beyond what was in that presentation. Yeah. So what I'm about to say is entirely just interpretation / speculation. But what I noticed was, you know, it went from regionals to regional championship. So I expect that to be something like, you know, 2 to 3 regional championships, like a North American, a European, and then maybe a Asia Pacific region, if you will. I think that those would also, you know, warrant a certain level of production for sure, just because we see that with other card games, right? Whether it's the Nationals events for Flesh and Blood, whether that's you know, the stuff for Magic. This game does not have the equivalent of like a pro tour the way some of those other games do. So I'm also kind of with you in that I think it'd be nice if there was a step up at the sector level as well. Just
Yeah.
a way to also, when you do the coverage like that, what it does is it also kind of like differentiates for the player base, like what that next step in your competitive journey is, right?
Exactly.
And so
yeah.
I think that like production level helps delineate exactly when you're taking that step up in terms of seriousness as a player. So I hope that they do that. I would love to see it, but we don't know. We only know what the public knows right now.
Right. Well, I'll be pushing for it. I think the game deserves it. I think the work that the players put into being that good at the game deserves it. You know, I think to a certain extent, production isn't just marketing, right? It's also showing respect for your players too. It's showing respect for all the time and effort they put into your game to get good at it, to compete, to travel, to, you know, spend all those resources, both financially and in time, to be part of your game and your community at that level. So I think it's not just, hey, we want a great production because we want people to say, ooh, what a great game, I want to buy it. We want to also respect the, you know, people that put a ton of their lives into it too, you know? So from both of those perspectives, because marketing is obviously important too. But from both of those perspectives, I think, you know, the regionals and the sectors warrant a little bit more. But like you said, we don't have any more information than you do. So we'll see. But moving beyond the production, let's talk about the tournament itself. You want to talk about the deck list, the meta? Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about all of that stuff, but there are two things that I personally would like to lead off with. The first is a huge thank you. I know we gave it to them in person, but I would like to say it again publicly on our podcast as well. A huge thank you to the judges. Yeah. I know that because of the size of the event and there were some on-site issues with side event tickets and things like that, that some folks maybe had a challenging start to their Galactic Championship journey is the way that I will describe it. But at no point did I hear any complaints about the judges all weekend long. In fact, I heard nothing but praise. I also heard that as the day went on, things just got better and better and smoother and smoother. And I know that, you know, day one, they had over 2,000 players registered for the main event, right? Like, I've been to events that are literally a tenth of that size, right? 200 player events where it's like a nightmare to get the next round started. It's like herding cats, and they were snappy and on time, and they kept things moving. It was just a massive undertaking. And as you said, this was their first time doing something like that. And I personally think that they killed it. So I wanted to give a shout out to the judges. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to Remy, who is picking our games, because we had great games on the broadcast. Like, it is so easy as a commentator to be excited when you get good matches, but also we had a ton of deck diversity. And I do think that, you know, we'll talk about that when we talk about the meta as well, but it was just refreshing that it didn't feel like we were casting, you know, the same match 5 times in a row.
Zero Han 2 mirrors all weekend. Shout out to Remy, because I don't think anyone wanted to watch that. I think it's, and to be fair, I think mirrors are interesting, but I think viewer wise, I don't think I've been a part of any card game community where people say I would love to watch the mirror. Usually it's the opposite. So when Remy came to us at the beginning of the weekend, he was like, well, what matches do you want to see on the you know, stream? And we just said, well, we want to just see a variety, right? And man, he delivered. Like he really put the work into tracking down some very obscure deck lists and things. And like I know everybody talks about the Admiral Trench Blue that we saw on stream, and obviously that ended up being a very one-sided match, but I'm really glad we got to see that deck, because I think that's one of the greatest things about these big events is you just have such a wide variety of things that are tried. And so showing that off, I think is a cool thing to do with those events too, because we're going to get to the meta stuff. You're going to get to the top 64. That'll have all the meta stuff you've ever wanted. And on those day ones and day twos, I think it's so great to highlight the jank, if you will, right? The off meta stuff, because that's where I think the majority of the player base lives in, because most people are playing casually, right? And so I think it's good to reflect that and show sort of like the peak of that off meta stuff at an event like that. So yeah, definitely shout out to Remy, who did a fantastic job picking matchups all weekend.
Yeah, so those are the ones that I just wanted to make sure that I hit. But we can talk about the meta now, because I think going into it, we heard time and time again that there was just going to be like one deck that was going to be the boogeyman, and then it turned out it was not only not the boogeyman, but was not nearly as represented as I think everyone thought it was going to be.
Yeah, one real quick judge thing real quick first. We got some very nice comments in our Discord about the judging, and I wanted to assure those people that your comments were passed on to the judges. We did let them know, and they were very happy to hear that. But anyway, back to the meta. I believe in the show before Galactics, we talked about Hantu Blue a bit, Hantu, 4-space blue. And my prediction, and I'm proud of this, Charmer, was that it would be more than 20, but less than 30. And I think it ended up around at its peak, like 21% of the first day or something like that.
Well, day 2. So first day after the open, because, like the actual day 1 where you had to, or the people who had their buy were not in it yet, it was just over 16%. And then when we hit day 2 where the people with their buys were added to the mixed, you were right, it was like 21%.
Yeah,
and then it went back down when we had the day 3 cut. So,
and it's it's not, that shouldn't be surprising really, because it is a very strong deck, and I don't think it was wrong coming into the Galactic Championship to say it was objectively the strongest deck in the game. But it turned out that some other decks that like Mother Talzin first and foremost, that people were kind of thinking about, but it's like, yeah, it's strong, but we'll see how it does. That deck specifically is very good into Hantu. And then you have to think about all the Hantu mirrors that were played, right? Dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of mirrors were played over the course of the weekend. And so it was really the lists that were tailored into the mirror that excelled. But then if you tweak your deck to be mirror favored, do you lose a little bit going to some of those other matchups? So I think it kind of ate itself a little bit, which usually that kind of deck does that, right? Where it's, people are very ready for it. They've done all the tweaking they can for it. They've definitely got their matchup practice for it, and then people are going to find some good things that can sort of come out of the word work for it. Man, that Tarkentown, Kylo Tarkentown deck, that's a whole discussion in itself. But I'm not the Hantu Blue thing. I was still expecting we would maybe see one in the finals. I thought we probably would, because I thought the deck was strong enough. But the other results, like the amount, and then the amount it decreased, that was kind of what I expected. And that's why I just wasn't as worried about it as a lot of other people were coming into this one. And maybe that's just seeing a lot of other similar decks in other card games, and just the psychology of how that ends up, breaking down in a big tournament like that. But yeah, I think kind of went as expected as far as Hantu Blue's performance in this deck, or in this tournament rather. But it's still a good deck. Like if you're looking for something to play in PQs, I think that's still a really good, good choice. It's still a very strong deck.
Yeah, I honestly, it performed the way I expected, but if anything, I would say it almost got exposed, because when you look at the decks that were not that deck that were doing well, they all had a pretty similar game plan. So we had the Kylo Tarkentown lists, right? That is a list that had a lot of, potential early removal for stuff if they didn't have full health, but also Tarkentown just in general as a base was proving incredibly effective against these Han lists, because you either were, shutting down their hero ability entirely because they were trying to play around it, or you just put them behind because they know, all right, I have to do this to get them to use the Tarkentown and then kind of play catch up, right? So whether it was Kylo Tarkentown, whether it was, we had the Quinlan Tarkentown that made the top 8. There were Cad Banes with Tarkentown floating around. That I think was an effective strategy. And then the Talzin list, right? So if you can't run Tarkentown, then you say to yourself, okay, well, now what do I do? And it turns out running units that give -3/-3 when they enter the board is a pretty good way to get the tempo going in your favor. So
yeah,
again, I'm not saying that the list is bad. I just think that going into this event, there was so much play testing done against it that people caught on to the weaknesses and it kind of got exposed a bit.
Yeah, I think so. And again, I don't think either of us are super surprised about it. But I think it'll still continue to be a strong deck in the meta. I think it just is more evidence of what we've been saying we enjoy about this game the entire time, which is, there's always an answer. Like the meta in Star Wars Unlimited is never solved. Anyone who tells you a meta in this game is solved, don't believe them, because there's always another deck out there. There's always something that can play well into the field and into whatever people think is the strongest right now. And that's been the case since the game first release, even set one. Set one meta was never solved.
I was curious, so I went and I pulled it up. I remembered top 8 had 4 Tarkin towns in it for the Galactic Championship. But I was just curious, all right, like what happens if I go further? So after the top 8, if I go down to the top 20, let's say, right, there are 10. So half of the top 20 ran Tarkin town.
Okay.
That I think speaks to how important board presence is.
Yes.
And slowing, early game stuff down. That is wild to me.
I feel like that leads into a conversation I definitely want to have, which is about, people's opinions on the suspended list or lack thereof post Galactic Championships. And I think Tarkin Town is a big part of that conversation. We don't need to jump to it right now because I still want to talk about some more lists in the tournament, but yeah, Tarkin Town, big presence in the tournament in the, top decks. Not a big surprise there, but let's talk about some of the other decks that did well. Because if you go beyond the top 8, there's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. There was did you know, you probably know this, but did you know out there, internet land, that there was a Mother Talzin Cunning list that took 12th in the Galactic Championship? 12th. That's a really, really great finish. And so even Mother Talzin has some other very, very strong builds. You have to be extremely good, and the deck has to be good to get that high, right? There was an Emperor Palpatine Cunning that was 13th. So another extremely high-performing list. There was an Iden Data Vault that took 18th, right? So there was a Han 2 Command with a Green Force base, if you like that variety. That was 23rd. There was a Kazuda Tarkin Town that took 28th, so top 32. Gar Saxon ECL, top 32. Kylo Ren, set 2 Kylo Ren, Tarkin Town, 31st. So in the top 32 alone, there was a ton of variety and a ton of decks that weren't really even on people's radars, I think, coming into that. If you look like, especially the Mother Talzin Cunning, people knew you could build Cunning, but no one I talked to would have ever said that, it was worth considering over the red base, right? Turns out looking at
the list, I actually kind of want to give this a go too.
Me
because
too.
What do I see that jumps out to me? 3 Sheehan Flurries.
Yep.
Which is great because the deck was also running 3 Darth Vader Twilight of the Apprentice.
Yep.
There's also, if you're thinking, okay, what are the Force units that you're running that are early? All the blue stuff still applicable, but we've got the Shins, right? That's a good 3-drop with the shielded.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that jumps out to me when I was looking at this list is beyond just the Sheehan Flurries, there were also sneak attacks. Mm-hmm. So you actually had 5 ways to play that Darth Vader combo when you factor in sneak attack as well. And sneak attack's also just a great game ender potentially. So
yeah,
I kind of want to give this a go. This looks like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that it's got 2 Geonosis Patrol Fighters for bouncing early stuff. It runs 3 P-38 Starfighters just for a little bit of ping in there. It's got a pretty scary top end between the Vaders that you mentioned, but then also the 2 Cad Bane Hostage Takers. I think that's such a great card for just closing things out in Villainy Cunning. So it's not as force heavy, but it's it looks strong. I mean, obviously it is strong, but
Hostage Taker, it's really interesting to me with the sneak attacks because they're going to try and get their units right back, but you slow them down, right? If you're talking about like a tempo play, being able to play the Cad Bane a turn sooner, ready, right? So then you get to swing for 7 with it while your opponent's stuff is, it's like if you exhausted them all, right? Because they're going to go away and they're going to come back. But if you're like, hey, you know, I can deal 7 damage to a base potentially and also exhaust up to, you know, this many units, like that's pretty good. I kind of want to take this list for a spin. This looks like a lot of fun.
Well, I love the play line of sneak attack Cad Bane hostage taker on your 6 resource turn into the Xian Flurry Darth Vader Twilight of the Apprentice on your 7 resource turn. So you shut down their board, do 7 damage to them. Sure, they get it back, but then next turn, right away, you're playing another big body with a shield, and you're going to theoretically kill something, right? You know, so because you get to ambush right away. So, you know, you get such a big amount of board control over those 2 turns that's such a big swing.
And
I like it.
Because of Xian's reduction, if you're using the ambush on something small, you might even just like keep the shield.
Yeah, that's right. And well, a lot of times that's what you see, right? You have Vader, you know, either attack into something, you know, where, you know, it'll kill it and he'll be fine, or you just see him not ambush, or you know what I mean? Like well, wait, you can't really keep the shield if you're ambushing because you have to hit something.
Well, yeah, but you can with Xian Flurry because of the damage reduction.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about the damage reduction with Xian Flurry. No, you're
like
totally right. Yeah, forgot about that
whatever.
Part. Yeah.
Then you can keep the shield to still do the ambush and nuke something else. So like that's what I'm looking at this. I'm like, this looks like a lot of fun.
That's so good. And then your early turns are just the same good Mother Talzin turns you would have anyway. You don't have, I mean, you still have Power of the Dark Side. You still have the Karis. You still have the Darth Tyrannus. You still have the Talzin's Assassins. I think I really like the mid to late game with this. All right, I'm going to try this list. I'm still looking for my PQ list. Maybe this is it. I don't know.
So looking at it, the other thing that I really like, this is a list that gets to take advantage of Hotshot Blaster.
Yeah.
And we saw that in the other Talzin lists anyway, but you get to do it for 3. But I also really like the inclusion of the 2-drop Kylo in this. Because when you Hotshot Blaster on him, right, he goes to a 4/3 overwhelm that's attacking, but you have the opportunity, if you have the Force, you could use it and then draw a card as well. So it just kind of gives you some nice flexibility, and he's still a 2-drop that also enables, you know, you to get your Force token. It's just kind of a neat little combo that they have in there.
Yeah, you're lacking the good stuff from Red that everyone's excited about, the Force throws, the Force lightnings, probably even bigger. But you make up for it by just, I think, being a little bit more aggressive on board than the Mother Talzins and relying less on removal and relying more on just, you know, tempo, essentially.
Well, the other thing that you gain, so like looking at the sideboard,
let me just bring it up. Hold on.
There's bamboozles in the sideboard, and there are the Anakin Skywalker Champion of Mortises in the main. So if you're looking for a way to turn on the full, you know, -6/-6, the bamboozles are great for that, because you can just ignore the aspect penalty if you do the discard another cunning card thing.
Yeah, I've brought it up on the screen here, just via my browser. So this is the list we're talking about. And yeah, it's I need to try it. I need to try it out. I really love cunning shenanigans. Man, I wish I could just play Qui-Gon though. I love that leader. What do you think about the couple shatter points in here? You know, it's hard to question anything in this list because the results were so good. But Shatterpoint is a card where I am very on the fence about it. It's good, but I feel like it really asks a lot by the best part of it being Force token related, especially in a deck that loves to use the Force a lot like this one. So I'm a little bit on the fence about that one.
So my thought process here is that I think it's fine in a list like this because The only time that you're really going to be using it with the force is when it's taking out something that's so big that your minus effects wouldn't be clearing it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're essentially saying, okay, the force I would have used for my minus effect, I'm now just using for the shatter point to turn it into a fell the dragon.
Sure.
Right.
Fair
and in
enough.
the scenarios where I don't need that, then I still have something that will provide me a little bit of flexibility. So,
Right.
you know, it's not great, but when you have a list like this, that's also, if I'm being honest, is just one that is kind of card hungry, you want to run a bunch of stuff and you only have so many slots.
Mm-hmm.
Running a card that, in my opinion, is like maybe a slightly less effective Fell the Dragon in that same slot where you would run that card, but giving you a little bit more flexibility as the trade-off, I think is fine.
Yeah, I agree. Sideboard is kind of cool. Getting used Liberated by Darkness, stuff like that. Yeah, you've got Bamboozle and Electromagnetic Pulse, so you're in good shape probably for the Vader matchup. Chirrut's annoying. Lurking Tie Phantom, yeah, I get access to that too. That's a good point. Huh. Very neat list. Very neat list. Well, let's see. Where is... Yeah, so any other list you want to take a look at from this top 32? I'm kind of curious about the Palpatine list real quick here. It's probably, you know, a lot of what we've seen before, but yeah, you do get, I think a big part of just villainy, if you're not relying on the 4 spaces, getting access to the new Aura Sing is really good. 2 for a 3/4 essentially. I mean, and you can say that because it's got hidden, I think. So you have just a much better chance of getting to swing with it, unless you're playing against Tarkin Town, in which case it will die like every other unit. But I do like it.
I really like the Aura Sing. I'll say one of the things I expected to see a little bit more of.
3 of these main board? Look at that.
3 Legacy runs is...
That is spicy.
Spicy, but you know what? If you're going to do Palpatine Cunning, it makes sense because you've got a built-in way to defeat it. You know what I mean? So
Right. And you have it gives you yet another way to damage something on their side of the board and take it later. Yeah.
So I really like that.
It's a fun list.
I'm surprised we didn't see really any set 1 Grand Inquisitor lists. I really thought somebody was going to try to crack that. And whether it was with some of the new Cunning support, right? So you were talking about Aura Sing, and it reminded me that between like Aura Sing and some of the Nihil units in Marchian Row, that there's like potentially that as an option.
Right.
I don't know. I felt like we were going to see some version of that, but we really didn't. And it's so weird to me because like the only drawback to him is that you have to damage your own units, and people have no problem doing that with the Han list.
Han does it all the time.
Then they stay away from the Inquisitor. So I don't know. It's just a little weird.
It's I've played against some very quick Grand Inquisitor units, but I think the thing that keeps people from getting more into Grand Inquisitor, in my experience, is that you damage the unit, sure, that's not that bad, and ready it, but then you can't attack with it right away. You know, you have to wait another action, and so it's hard for people to wrap their brains around how to play that, perfectly, I think. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Other lists that I thought we'd see a little bit more of, we did see a good amount of Boba Fett Data Vault, set 4 Boba Fett Data Vault. Sabine has kind of fallen off a little bit. That's fine. I thought we were going to see a little bit more Kazuda.
I also thought that both Tarkin Town and the blue version. There is the one that was like 28th, I want to say, that was Kazuda Tarkin Town.
There was, yeah. Sorry, I just opened up this Kylo Tarkin Town list because I wanted to see it too. Oh man, the Prestige Von Regs Interceptor looks so good. Yeah, I think it's the best version of set 2 Kylo, you know? Just having access to Battle Fury now is so good.
Yeah.
That's what really kind of pushes this deck over the line that it was sort of behind before is cards like Battle Fury. And also HK-47 is a really good one.
Yep. I think that those were solid additions. I also think that we're still in a spot where Aggression is just a really good card.
Yeah, for sure.
And the more
people forget
use, the more use you get out of it, the better off you are. But there's really not, in my opinion, there's just not a bad choice on aggression. Almost all of those set 1 legendaries that are tied to an aspect have like 2 or 3 really good things, but this is the only one where every time I play it, I am struggling with what to pick. The only time I struggle is if they have 0 upgrades, obviously, then that kind of takes care of that decision on its own, but the rest are pretty much always relevant.
You know, the funny thing is, I would normally agree with you, but I've played Command and Wat Tambor, and in that deck, all 4 options are amazing. Even the one that returns a unit to your hand, which is one everyone always kind of discounts. But if you can do that and bring like a Separatist Commando back, you're in good shape. But that's a whole different podcast. Oh yeah, also we got Strike Ship. That also makes this deck really good too. It's a scary unit. But yeah, a lot of stuff to look at deck-wise from the Galactic Championships. And I think just the extreme variety is, again, just more evidence to say, hey, play what you're comfortable on, play what you want to play. Don't try to follow the meta because the meta never lasts, Just play the style or the leader that you like. If you think a character is cool, just play that character, That's the thing that's holding me back from playing Mother Talzin a little bit, is that I really like the way the deck plays, but I just don't care at all about the character, Whereas I would much rather play Qui-Gon or Kit Fisto or something like that. I think they're cooler characters, but
It's interesting to me because like I love the Night Sisters as a concept. I also just don't like Mother Talzin specifically. Like
yeah, it does make a difference in a game like this, doesn't it? Yeah.
Right. Like I love a good witchy coven. Mother Talzin is like the most generic version of that. So.
Yeah. Yeah, but the list is the aggression version is really fun to play. I'm gonna have to try the cunning version. I really like Revan as well, but Mother Talzin kind of does a lot of what Revan does, just a little bit better. That's the issue there. But there is a really neat Vigilance Revan list that I like a lot, and also the best performing Revan at Galactics was Revan Cunning, running the Underworld package, which is one I've been espousing the virtues of since Revan came out, because Underworld just has so much value in it. But anyway, that is a look at the decks and things like that in the tournament. Yeah, what a great tournament as far as like games too. We had so many close matchups. We got so fortunate to have one of the best matches of the entire tournament be the grand finals, because man, I've casted so many tournaments where great games, and the finals is like a total dud. But this was not the case. It was so close. Both players were so good. I loved casting that one.
There's like nothing worse than you get to the finals and it's just like a one-sided blowout. And that was, again, thankfully not the case with ours.
Yeah. It was, again, like both players just played so well. That really was like the peak of Star Wars Unlimited gameplay, I thought, and the games that were, all the games were kind of determined within like 1 or 2 actions, where it was like, it could go either way,
Yeah.
And,
for sure.
Yeah. But, we had our champion in the end, Philip on the Mother Talzin. Just a really, really great list. Really, really well played. Then of course, Ian on, Kylo Ren Tarkin Town. Kylo Ren set 5 Tarkin Town, we should say. Just coming with the Bothan Network team and bringing that just secret brew, which that's the thing that excites me the most. I remember on day 1, we were seeing these Kylo Ren, Kylo 5 Tarkin Town decks show up on the standings, and I remember saying in the broadcast, like, I'm sorry guys, this one somehow got past me prep wise. Like, I have no idea what this list is, and the reason is because it was top secret. Nobody knew about this list outside the team.
I was gonna say, I love the story they told. So after the tournament was over, folks might not know, but you and I got to hang out with a large group of players, kind of like in a lobby area where people were just jamming games. Ian was a part of that, and some other members of his team. And I remember one of them was telling this story about how they, I guess, were doing all their testing. They'd rented like an Airbnb or whatever, and so the whole team was there.
3 Airbnbs. They rented 3 Airbnbs in Vegas, and then they just picked one of them that everyone would congregate at and practice.
Right. Yeah. And so when the majority of their team landed on this list, then they started like ordering cards from, I think, local LGSs or whatever. And one of them said that like he got a message where they were like, "Hey, what do you got brewing? Why am I filling an order for 21 Sith holocrons?" Right? Like,
yeah,
because that was not on the radar, right? That's suspicious. And so like you love those kinds of stories where it's like, okay, you find something, you don't know if anyone else is on it, and then you make that order and it's like, yeah, exactly. Like why is somebody ordering 21 Sith holocrons like a week before this big tournament?
You got to spread it out next time, you know, they got to be less obvious. But it worked great. And, you know, again, we had Ian on the show last week, and definitely go back and watch that if you haven't. But one of the things he was saying is, you know, in testing, it seemed really good, but everyone was like, all right, well, our plan for the weekend is we either go 0-3 and then just all drop and play side events and have a good time, or we crush. You know, and they definitely crushed the tournament, but they legit went into it being like, well, you know, will it be domination or will it be 0-3 drop? You know, so it's fun to see how all that kind of comes together, because when you're testing that much, you know, you're still testing in a little bit of a bubble too, so you never truly know how a deck is going to perform until you get it out there in the wild, you know. Truly in the wild at a tournament like this. So just what a neat story to build that and have it be so successful. And that, to me, that deck is like the highlight of the tournament, you know. And it's never going to be, we talked about this, Ian and I, last week, where it's never going to be as good as it was that weekend. Now everybody's running aggrieved parliamentarians in their sideboard. Like, people are ready for it, right? And it is that type of thing where, sure, aggrieved shuts it down hard. Bamboozle can shut it down hard. Even if you do snapshot and get one attack in. So it's never going to be as good as it was that weekend. But I think it still looks like a very fun listen if you want to play it. I think it's still going to be good. But yeah, it's one of those decks that's going to be tougher to really excel with now that the cat's out of the bag, so to speak. But that's cool. That's kind of by intent. But yeah, let's see. So let's, unless you have any more tournament stuff to talk about, I want to talk about Secrets of Power a little bit. Anything else?
Not tournament. The other thing that I just wanted to talk about is the additional events, right? So I mentioned there were 3 buckets, and I wanted to talk about like the experience / the events.
Sure.
I did not know going into the weekend that they were going to have so many additional things for people to do there. I've been to a lot of card game tournaments, and it's not uncommon for there to be like vendors, you know, an artist alley, that sort of thing. But I was not expecting life-size TIE fighters and X-Wings. I was not expecting Star Wars themed Build-A-Bear workshops. I was not expecting the mini figure painting session where you could sit down, paint a Star Wars figure, and then you just got to take it with you. You got to keep it, right? I was not expecting, you know, they had that lounge area, and I took some footage. I'm actually working on getting a video put together. So if folks want to see a little bit of what the event was like, and I got some kind of cool behind the scenes shots, that'll be out soon, you know, trademark. But there was like a lounge area where there was just a bunch of TV set up, and there's just people standing around watching the tournament, right? Like that was really cool. And I just wanted to say that this was the first event like this I've seen that was not part of a greater con that felt like a convention in and of itself. That's the only way I know how to describe it, right? I don't know what the exact numbers are. Xander told me that there will be some sort of like published article at some point in the future, but I know that they had like over 3,000 people at the event.
That's it.
Throughout. So great. And I also know that from my own experience, right, when we were walking around the Venetian and whatever, even the people who were not there for the event knew about the event because of those things, right? We had people say like, oh, are you here? They would just say for the Star Wars event. And I saw a lot of like foot traffic of families saying like, hey, let's just go see what this is about. Let's go walk through. And, you know, it seems like such an obvious thing. Like, obviously this is good marketing. Get people to walk in because it's a spectacle. You just don't see other games doing that. So I just wanted to call attention and say it was not something that I had expected because I just had not seen it before, but I feel like it was a pretty big success in that regard because of all of the activities and all of the additional foot traffic that it generated.
to be fair to other games out there, having been talent on a number of big Bandai events so far, that is the vibe you get at those two, and that is multiple card games, but there's also tons of other stuff to go see. So like artists and musical performances and all, it does have that con feel attached to it too. And so I felt the same thing you did though, where I was like, yes, we can do it in this game too, because Star Wars is big enough. We can do all this stuff that is just experiential versus just the card game tournament. So I was excited for the same reason too, because we can do that with this.
I will also admit my Bandai experiences are different, because you've done like Bandai Card Fests.
Yeah, I've done
I did like Battle Spirits Pro Tour in New Jersey, where it was like just Battle Spirits.
Yeah,
you know
I did one of those too. That was that was not an experience.
That was not the same vibe, right? So like I haven't done one of the Card Fests.
Yeah, no, the Card Fests are different. Yeah, that is more. Yeah, I just wanted to be fair, not be like this is the only one. Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited that we get to have that with this game, and I want to see a little bit more of that at regional championships for sure, and sectors. I think a little bit of it. But yeah, that's great. It really was a Star Wars experience. I didn't know the full scope of it coming into it. I definitely would have brought my wife and kid along if I would have known everything. That was going to be happening there, and my kid's still like 2, so she can't really appreciate all that much. But she can recognize R2-D2 and C-3PO now. And there were like R2's rolling around there. So I think she would have liked that at least. So next year for sure. But yeah, just a great experience around. Like a great experience from the Star Wars Unlimited perspective, but just also great from the Star Wars fan perspective too. And having been like a Star Wars fan since I was a little kid, right? 4 or 5 was probably the first time I saw Star Wars. Just being able to stand underneath a life-size TIE fighter, and sit in a Millennium Falcon cockpit and all that. And that's just so cool to be able to go from this little kid watching taped off of television Star Wars VHS tapes, grainy, awful, to this is cool, so I definitely will cherish that event. It's definitely going down as one of the all-time best events I've ever gotten to work in my almost 15 years of doing professional game commentary now. It was great. Yeah.
Now we can talk about Secrets of Power.
Secrets of Power. Another great thing about the event is we got more of a big official reveal for Secrets of Power. Like we knew it was coming. We knew the name of the expansion. We'd seen the logo, but we didn't know any details. And so I think it just looks awesome, right? Where I wondered how they were going to follow up these last 2 sets, because we've got the pilots and space battle set, then you get the Jedis and Force set, and so you've really hit the 2 main parts of fandom in Star Wars right there. There's this people that love the space stuff, that's me. There's the people that love all the Force stuff. So where do you go from there, right? It's a legitimate question, and so I think the decision to go to the excuse me, not the underworld, but the kind of the shadowy, parts of Star Wars where there's politics and there's backroom deals and there's plots, which is no pun intended, that are being hatched across the galaxy. And right after Andor finishes, I think this is a great follow-up where I think they're hitting this at just the right timing, where the Andor hype is still pretty high. So, I'm excited about it. And the new mechanics look very interesting, too. I'm very curious about how all that's going to play out. What do you think about plot and disclose?
I adore them as mechanics, because I am... Sorry, my brain just fried there for a minute. I am a big fan of mind games within card games in general. I think that one of the reasons that, not even just talking about trading card games, right? Card games like poker, for example, have been iconic for so long because you are playing the person as much as you're playing the game.
Right.
And so when I look at the mechanics like Disclose in particular, that gives you an opportunity in a trading card game to potentially play the person as well as play the game. Being able to show people cards to get an effect, and then also either make them say like, okay, well, I got to see this, so I have to play around it, but then you resource it, right? Mm-hmm. Or you're afraid of them doing something, so you purposefully show them like an answer ahead of time with the hope that you never actually have to play the answer. It's just like an intimidation tactic.
Right.
Or, you show them everything but the answer, and you maybe bait them into doing something, and then you have the response. All of those things are fantastic for me. So I love the disclose mechanic because it really does allow you to play a game of information. Plot, I think, is really interesting because I just enjoyed smuggle to begin with, but tying it to like potentially once a game trigger. Obviously, it's whenever you deploy your leader, so cards like Trench could also go up in value.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Trench is this is it. This is the moment where Trench becomes meta. Yes, with plot. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I hadn't even thought of that.
That is certainly there. But also just any time where you take something that has been an expectation and you subvert it. And so the expectation in this case is that historically for Star Wars Unlimited, there have not been a lot of leaders that you don't want to deploy the turn that they become available to deploy.
Yeah.
Kylo is kind of that exception right now. And there's been a few others where like maybe you hold it for a turn or two. But for the most part, like when you hit the resources to deploy your leader, it's almost always correct to just deploy the leader. Plot changes that. There are definitely going to be decks where you might wait purposefully for a bigger plot payoff in order to do it, and I'm here for it. So I love that, but I love the disclose mechanic as well.
Now you got me thinking, right? Because you talked about plot with Trench, and so right away you have things with Cad Bane, but like, what about plot with Poe? Right, where like Poe deploys all the time. Like, and I'm looking like at this Jar Jar card right now. You deploy, Poe, because it says deploy leader. Does Poe apply for that? Because you deploy him as an upgrade. You are deploying the leader. You're deploying as an upgrade.
Are you deploying him or are you attaching him? So let me actually.
I think it still says. I think it still says deploy as a leader upgrade. Although that card might be different specifically.
No, it says flip this leader and attach him as an upgrade.
Oh, okay. So it specifically doesn't say deploy on Poe, but
correct.
Trench does say deploy.
Trench is deploy. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you couldn't do it with Poe, which is too bad because then I could see like playing resourcing Jar Jar and then on turn 2 you pay 1 to flip Poe onto something, and then you pay 2 to bring Jar Jar out and give it +2/+2 and swing for a huge amount. But I guess you can't do that. Sad. All right, I'm less excited about that now, but Trench might still be fun.
But who knows? Like with the set, we also might get another Trench-like leader, for example.
Could be.
That is, built around doing more with plot. This the same way that when we got Smuggle, we got cards like Lando that allowed you to interact with Smuggle differently, right?
Yeah.
We very well could have another Trench-like leader.
I think Padme just looks great as a leader just to begin with. When you reveal or discard 1 or more cards from your hand, you may exhaust. If you do, deal 1 damage to a unit. I mean, ping with no resource costs attached to it is always good. There's more and more reasons why you want to discard cards. Hey, if somebody force throws you, Padme gets to do 1 damage to something on their side of the board now, right? So there you go. And then disclose, obviously, reveal is included in this, so it works with the set 6 mechanic. So Padme just looks kind of strong out of the gate, I think.
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
kind of interesting to me.
I think that there's, as you're saying, like a number of ways that you kind of already want to discard cards on your own anyway, even outside of force throw, which, you could force throw yourself, but like cards like Marin, for example, where now that becomes, if you discard a card, you can deal 3 damage and you could split it 2 to 1 and 1 to another.
I mean, Miggs is just aggression. He's not villainy.
Yeah. Aggression into a Marin, and then when Marin gets to swing, you get to do 2, 2, and 1. If Padme is the leader, is kind of crazy.
Aggro Padme, I'm for it. She flips on 6, but that's still probably okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. But yeah, the plot mechanic is cool. I'm going to be watching the plot cards very closely. The one little concern I feel like I have pop out is that like I feel like this mechanic potentially creates hero or leader deployment actions that are too strong, you know? My big question is, what is going to be the average cost of a card with plot? Because if it's closer to 5, like Cad Bane has, then you're going to be playing 1, maybe 2 cards when you reveal your leader, when you deploy your leader, right? And so that's not that bad. If the cost of plot is going to trend closer to 2, like Armor of Fortune, then if you're playing 3 or 4 cards, potentially even with plot, if you wait, an extra action phase or 2, then that gets to be like a pretty gigantic cascade of things happening in one action. So I do wonder, what the scope of that is going to be. That's something I'm just going to be kind of keeping an eye on.
There is also, obviously the Chancellor Palpatine leader is going to give you a discount on your plot stuff as well.
Yep.
And
which searches for plots too.
Super relevant, but there's also the one card that was revealed, when has become now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you're burning an additional card, right? Like, but you're also what that card does is it just trades when has become now for being the card in your resource pile. So you're not really truly going down a card. It's almost like it turns any card with plot into a smuggle card that just has +1 resource because you're doing the when has become now, which is also really good.
Yeah, it just follows the tradition of like Xian Flurry or Timely Intervention or the blue one that I can't remember the name of right now in Legacy of the Force, where you have a card where you pay 1. Yeah, you have a card where you pay 1 where you get to, play another card for full cost with an additional effect as it comes in.
Right.
So, yep. So it's kind of in that tradition, but I like that we get that for plot right off the bat. That is good. I think Furtive Handmaiden looks great. Obviously with Padme, it's a spotlight card, no surprise there.
Mm-hmm. I really like Corrupt Politician. Like, it seems really simple, but it's 1 for a 2/2 that can become a speed bump, but also I always am keeping an eye out in command villainy specifically for cards that say official, because the Emperor's guard from set 1 that turns on if you also have an official is and always has been a really efficient card with Sentinel potentially. And this would be a great way to just play roadblocks, right? If you've got the Politician with Sentinel, you've got that with Sentinel. There's, I think, enough ways that you could play a slow control deck on the back of this kind of like official trait.
I think one thing to keep in mind with this set is this is going to be the last set to play your set 1 through 3 stuff in Premier play, right? It's going to move to whatever Eternal format they're going to have in the game that just includes everything. In the future. So, because when set 7 comes out, we've been told that that's when set 1 through 3 rotate out, which I'm excited about because I'm excited about any big shakeup. And I think this game had a fantastic first 3 sets, but it had the thing that every card game has, which is just the generically good cards, right? Your takedowns, your vanquishes, your things like that. Rivals Fall, right? In set 2, I think that was. So having the good, just kind of generically good stuff rotate out is going to be great because it's going to really open up deck building. You still have all those mechanics in the game, but they have conditions attached to them, which is the way I think you want your card game to go as it develops. Players will be able to pick up on that easier, and then it opens up the design space, right? So I'm excited about that, but it is something to keep in mind that if you really love set 1 through 3 stuff, set 6 meta is going to be your last chance in Premier play to have that stuff included. So PQs, all that kind of stuff. Right. So keep that in mind too. All those fun combos. Do it now if you're interested in it. Do it. Yeah. Do it.
The number of times that got said behind the scenes over the weekend was
do it.
Do it.
Do it. Do it. If you're watching if you're watching the video, you'll see. Do it.
I'm also really excited, I'll say this, to see how many cards create and care about spy tokens, right? So we saw in the reveal, there's the one card that makes a bunch of spy tokens, And then we saw that the spy token, if I remember correctly, it's just a 0-2 with raid 2.
Right.
But the fact that it's a token with 2 health, I think is pretty relevant. So
there you go. Just do it. That's I feel like I have to save this now and make this, you know, part of the broadcast from now on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that. I gotta make this an emote in our Discord too. I've decided. Yeah.
I
So
think you're right.
Right after we finish recording, there's gonna be an emote in the Discord. And then everyone who watches this episode will get to see the backstory. Do it. Yeah, I think we said that on the stream a lot, like during commercial breaks.
We did.
Right before we went live, all the time.
Yeah, we would literally have, if you're wondering, we would have Stuart
seconds,
in our ear, like, all right, 10 seconds till we're live, and we'd be like, do it every time.
All right, it's an inside joke, but we're inviting you inside. So yeah, I think Legacy of Power is going to be a really fun set, and I'm looking forward to rotation after that. Once we get to set 7, which they did release the names of the sets. I'm trying to remember them all.
Yes.
I'm gonna.
So they
go
were.
Oh, you got them. Okay.
A Lawless Time. I mean, I'm just going by memory. It should be A Lawless Time.
Yep. Set 7.
Ashes of the Empire, and then Homeworlds.
Right. That is it. Hold on. I'm gonna bring it up on the screen, just so people can.
Yeah, I was just going by memory because last time I checked, it was not on SWODB, if I remember right. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. This is our episode where we do everything on the fly because I have no time. I didn't have any time to set things up in advance today.
I was telling Stark that obviously we don't know. Hey, look,
there it is.
You found it. Great.
I did.
I was telling Stark that again, we don't know anything behind the scenes, but like my thoughts, right, or my hope was that A Lawless Time is kind of a return to Underworld / I would also expect this to be like more Book of Boba Fett / Mandalorian stuff in this.
The text makes me feel that vibe for some reason.
Yeah, well, that's just like when you're talking about A Lawless Time, it's like when there's the vacuum of power, right? So you want your kind of shady underworld stuff, but also that vacuum of power period where it's not really, you know, Empire or Republic or whatever. It's just A Lawless Time. So that would make sense to me.
I mean, Ashes of the Empire kind of suggests that too, right? Where it's like whatever happens in the wake of the, you know, of Return of the Jedi stuff. So they kind of both have a little bit of that vibe.
They do. I expect Ashes of the Empire to be a bit more of the Ahsoka show stuff though, because that's also about like,
fair enough,
in my mind anyway. It's the Ashes of the Empire, but in that transition of the fall of the Empire to when we get the First Order, right? So I would expect sequel stuff, and I would expect like the, you know, Thrawn, Ahsoka oriented stuff a bit more. Not that we haven't got that, right? But I could see that being a focus. Homeworlds, I'm hoping, is when we finally start getting our like alien race tribal stuff. So like I would hope that this would be the set where we get Gungans, Ewoks, etc.
That's what a lot of people have been saying.
You know, something that I think people have been clamoring for. I would love like Jawas to also show up.
You get the I want to see a base that's a sand crawler. Give me not a vehicle. Give me a base that's a sand crawler, and then you know, a bunch of Jawa stuff that works with if your base is a sand crawler. Like give me that. Right. Give me that. Yeah. That's my one request for Homeworlds.
Yeah. But I mean, even if they want to go like expanded universe stuff, like one of the Homeworlds, if you will, could be like Hutta, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. A bunch of huts.
We could get a bunch of hut stuff.
Yeah. A bunch
like,
of low attack, high
Nero,
health thing.
Right? Nero's the little hut.
Nero?
From Clone Wars?
No, it's Jiro or something, right? I don't know. All I know is it's the guy from the bear.
Oh, Zero.
Okay.
Zero.
It's the guy from the bear, but not the guy from the bear that was in Andor. It's a different guy from the bear. That show, the cooking show.
Yeah.
There's multiple people now apparently that will be from the bear, the FX, right? They made the bear. It's a good show. A little bit too much yelling for my taste, but it's a good show. But now they're slowly all becoming part of Star Wars. So that's cool. All right. I think that brings us to.
Yeah.
I think that brings us to the end of the episode.
Yeah, I was just looking up,
Do it.
stuff that were known Hut characters. So Beyond Zero, so there's Nal Hutta, which I assume is like the place, right?
Yeah, that's the planet. Yeah.
Gorga the Hut, Jabba the Hut, Aruba the Hut, and Zero the Hut. Zero is the one I was thinking of.
Hey,
I think
now,
I just thought of Nero because he reminds me of like
oh, sure.
the actual like Roman Emperor Nero and the way that he's like super annoying and privileged and whatever.
I don't think he'd make his horse a senator though, or his bantha a senator. Maybe it's possible. I remember the Nal Hutta charm was a good. I think it was a used interrupt in the Decipher Star Wars card game. That's a long. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to next year. I mean, what's great about this, one of the great things about a Star Wars TCG is that you literally never run out of things to make cards of, because it just goes on forever. And now these days, there's always new stuff happening, right? And they're slowing that down, which I think is good. But there's just a lot to draw from. Even if Star Wars stopped, if the franchise just ended and they're like, we're never going to make another Star Wars thing in any media format ever tomorrow, you would still have decades of cards you could make. So this game could go on forever. I hope it does.
Because I know it's been a question in the past where people are like, what happens? Like, could they run out? Let me just tell you that back when the Decipher card game was around, we only had the original trilogy to work with.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
And there were still lots of sets. Right?
There was.
So
let's see, and because they split it up, because their first set was A New Hope, and the first expansion for the game was literally called A New Hope, and then their second expansion was Hoth. So it was all stuff just based around the Battle of Hoth. Imagine an entire card game expansion where it's all Hoth stuff, and like Imperial ship stuff, AT-ATs, all that. And then the third one was Dagobah. So it was that one was mostly just like aliens and bounty hunters. So it dealt with chasing.
You were actually wrong.
Oh, wrong? What are we wrong about?
The first one was not A New Hope. The first set was just called Premiere. It was the Premiere set.
I said the first expansion. The first expansion.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so first, expansion, yeah. So there was just like the base set, which was just Premiere.
Yeah. So the first set was just...
Dagobah.
The first set was A New Hope, and the first expansion was actually called A New Hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dagobah. And Dagobah was Jedi training with Yoda and Luke and whatever other characters you wanted to put through Jedi training. It was a whole theme. And then the other part was bounty hunters, because it was also about the Millennium Falcon being chased and all the ships and the matching pilots and bounty hunters. Then you had Cloud City, which was just all the Cloud City stuff, more bounty hunter things. Lando had two cards. He had a light side card and a dark side card, essentially a heroism and a villainy card, which is really cool.
Didn't Lot also have...
Who?
Or not Lot.
Lobot?
Lobot, yeah.
No,
sorry.
Lobot was only light side. Lobot was only light side, as far as I remember. But then you had after
he had a dark side one.
I don't think so.
No, I just pulled it up. He does.
No, he doesn't. Is that from that set though?
I don't know. I'm trying to open the image in a larger tab so I can see the set listed. 1999.
If I'm wrong, I will be
the set.
Very shocked. No, there's only a light side Lobot card.
I will put this in the chat. I'm trying to figure out what set this is from.
Sure.
I remembered that there was definitely a dark side Lobot.
It might have come out later on in like one of the
special
edition sets or something. Let me look.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the special edition icon. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the expansion symbol is the little thing about, where the expansion symbol is in it. Yeah, that's the special edition expansion symbol. Yep. So yeah, in the Cloud City expansion there was only a light side Lobot, but I guess they printed a dark side one in the other. I forgot about that. And then that was
Jabba's Palace.
Yep, Jabba's Palace, which was a really cool set. Tons of aliens.
Well, also, if I remember correctly, somebody on this podcast once opened a pack of that.
I did.
On the episode.
There's a short on our YouTube channel of that event. Yeah, I opened I just happened to have a sealed box of Jabba's Palace. Well, it was sealed, but it wasn't sealed. Like all the sealed packs were in there, but the box itself was open. So I just opened one and I got the best hit you could get in the set. And then, so go back and watch that short if you want to find out what it was. So then, and Jabba's Palace was great. All these alien synergies, all the Jabba stuff, the sail barge, all the locations, Jabba himself, obviously. And then like some Jabba's Palace era, characters. And then you had, after Jabba's Palace, it was Endor, I think is what they went to.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just Endor.
Yeah. There were, I want to say like some reprint sets obviously sprinkled through, because I remember there was like the white bordered anthology stuff. But
right.
as far as like new cards, Endor was the one that was after Jabba's Palace.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just talking like new sets and things. They would usually do like white border sets of like some of the bigger ones that had some of the more foundational cards in.
Yeah.
Just to get the reprints out there. Endor obviously was about the Battle of Endor, so Ewoks, speeder bikes, all that kind of fun stuff, ATSTs. And then you had the place where I stopped playing was Death Star 2, which was just all about the big space battle at the end of Return of the Jedi. And you had the first super rares in the game ever. You had Emperor Palpatine and Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, which I remember I opened up... crazy as it sounds, I opened up a Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight in my first box of because back then I was in high school, I couldn't afford any of that. I saved and saved and saved, and I bought a box. The first box of any card game I've ever bought was Death Star 2 for the Decipher CCG, and I opened a Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight. I was like, oh sick, I'm gonna play this, because you only really needed one of those cards a lot of times in your decks. But because of the uniqueness rule that existed and your ability to bring things back. But then just out of a random pack from a little store tournament, like a few days later, I opened another one. And so I traded that one for another box because the value was as such. And out of that box, I got the Emperor Palpatine, which it was not guaranteed at all. It was like 1 out of 3 or 4 boxes, or I think it was, or something. So that was one of my best runs of luck in a card game ever, was to get the 2 super rares.
That's why you don't get showcases.
That's why I don't get showcases.
You burned it all on Decipher.
It's true. Although I got to say, the Galactic Championship was good for me showcase-wise. I was able to find a Qui-Gon. I bought a Wat Tambor. So I came away with a few. Yeah. It was good.
I traded my serialized Grand Inquisitor that I had opened. And I got an Iden showcase. I got a Krennic showcase.
Wow.
In a Third Sister showcase.
Wow. That's a lot of fun decks to play around with.
Yeah. I mean, I play a lot of Iden and Krennic anyway. I really was trying to find a Kanan for my Twin Sons list, but as you and I had talked about before, like I just never saw them. The vendors were hopping at that event. Like every time you walked by, they had new stuff because stuff was coming in and out like really fast. So
that's why
I had heard some Kanans were out there, but every time I went by, I couldn't find them. But
that's why I never found a Kit Fisto. I just never saw one at the vendors, sadly. That's still the showcase I've been hunting the most, and that's one I can't get.
Yeah, and I wanted to grab the Third Sister because that is a deck that I think could have potential, but specifically like post-rotation potential. So I wanted to pick it up now.
Yeah, I feel that way about Kit Fisto, actually, where I think he's just going to keep getting better and better. Qui-Gon, I mean, I know there's a great deck in there for Qui-Gon somewhere. He's just so hard to play, but that's a whole different podcast. We've been going for an hour and a half, though. We should probably wrap it up.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up.
It's been fun. We learned a lot about the. We had a fun trip down memory lane with the Decipher CCG, but mostly just a lot to be excited about in Star Wars Unlimited as well, coming up next year. And what a great finish to Season 0. The Galactic Championship was awesome. I think I can speak for both of us when we feel honored and blessed to get a chance to get to do it. It's been a long time goal of ours to cast an event like this when we started this podcast. Yeah. And I jumped into the podcast a few episodes in back in 2023. So it feels like the completion of that arc, and so now I just hope we get to do a lot more of these and things just keep growing. So like and subscribe so we can, please. Anything to add?
I mean, normally I do the ending, but I'm also just for now gonna go. Do it.